Trying, but that's why, right?
All right, I'm getting the nod, so I guess we're good to go. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. Happy New Year. Welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, January the 12th. Before we jump into the national anthem, I'm just going to make one minor change to the agenda. We have a guest joining us for the closed session portion, so rather than make that person wait till the end of the meeting, I'm just going to bump number 10 to closed session. Right up after our planning and public meeting. So number 10 on the agenda will move in between number 4 and 5. So with that, I would ask that if you are able, that you stand for that pledge. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories upon which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions, and it is with this statement we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Okay. So we have two sets of minutes, minutes from our December 8th regular council meeting and then December 15th special council meeting. Are there any questions or concerns on either of those? For the seconder to adopt by Councillor Guichardi, second by Councillor Wagner. All in favor? That's carried. All right, into our planning public meeting. So tonight's public meeting is being held under Section 34 of the Planning Act, and it is to consider an application for zoning bylaw amendment for the land known municipally as 122 on Sound Street. Purpose and effect of the amendment is to add a site-specific provision to permit a small animal veterinary clinic on the site, whereas the zoning bylaw, as of right now, does not permit this use within the C1 zone. I'll ask the clerk for the office notice for tonight's public meeting.
Notice of tonight's public meeting was advertised in local media sources. Notice that we posted on the town's website. Notice was provided to property owners. Yes.
Okay. So we'll have a presentation from Steve Weaver, our town planner, and then after that, there will be an opportunity for members of council as well as members of the public who are here to ask any questions or provide comments. The clerk will also accept written submissions, and all submissions that we receive, whether written or oral, will be given consideration by council before a decision is made. So with that, Steve, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Mills. So I have a few slides to share just to give an overview of the application. The applicant is here, I believe, they've been Wasson, as well as Linda Buffett on behalf of the owner, Mark Marshall Investments Limited. You will know this property as historically being used for many years as a clothing store, and that closed down last year. So the property has become available for an alternative use. And the proposal, as you know before you, is to add a special zone to the properties for small animal veterinary clinic. So the address, as the mayor mentioned, is 122 Sound Street. So the legal description there as well, and the phone number. We're here tonight to fulfill the planning act requirement for a public meeting. I have made a recommendation in the report that's in your council agenda, but that's without the benefit of hearing comments at the meeting, so it's qualified in any way. We did not receive any objections to the application, however, in advance of today's vote. Next slide, please. It's just the overhead view. It's a long, narrow building on the property outlined in red. Sits directly adjacent to the buildings attached on either side. The one to the south is obviously quite a bit smaller. Doesn't go as far back into the property, and then to the north is 124 Sound Street, which has been the subject of recent renovations for some residential units on the second story. And that particular building goes all the way to the back of the property or near. There is a small area behind the property, and you see that in more detail with some of the photos that we provided. It isn't really well laid out right now for parking, but it does have some area that has historically been used for parking of a small number of vehicles. So we have aimed to establish a minimum parking standard for this property. In addition to that, as we know, there's on-street parking available along with Town Street, Main Street to the south. But as much as possible, we're encouraging the opponent to park their staff any longer term parking in the back. The next slide. So it is just a one-story building. You can see the frontage here. There's a main door entrance and the windows into the retail store. The image in the top right just shows that on-street parking along the frontage and how it sits adjacent to the building on either side, which are taller. And then in the bottom three images, you can see three street view images. It happens to be, the images where the Google Street View vehicle went down the municipal lane there. But you can see there have historically been vehicles parked behind the building. Again, not a high number. We calculated there's room for at least three, so we have established a minimal parking standard of 3. The requirement in the C1 zone is that if you change the use of an existing building, you're not required to provide the parking for the parking standard of the zoning bylaw. You're only required to maintain the amount of parking that is presently available. Again, although it isn't presently mowed and cut down for parking, the air photo and graphic evidence is that there has been room for some vehicles. So we're suggesting that 3 is the appropriate number of spaces that should be provided. And if you go to the next slide, you can see it's within the downtown commercial zone. The request is very straightforward and actually the same request that was made a few years ago for 155 and 165 Main Street West, which is just to add the small animal veterinary clinic. It isn't crystal clear why that wasn't permitted in the C1 zone in the first place in the zoning bylaw. It is permitted in the more peripheral commercial zones. I think one of the considerations would have been the C1 zone does allow both commercial and residential in the same building. So to allow a veterinary clinic, you want to be sure that you understand the details and that there aren't any conflicts within the building. In this case, there are no residential units in the building, so no real concerns. And the applicant has confirmed there wouldn't be overnight stays with this except say emergency situations. So the noise or ongoing issues like that are really concerned from a compatibility perspective. If you go to the next slide, as I mentioned with the parking, there's a limited amount of space at the back. We ourselves just prepared an illustrative parking plan. This isn't necessarily how you have to park, just to demonstrate that there is the space back there to park back. An alternative layout would just be the full straight in off the laneway. So there are a number of different ways that vehicles could be accommodated in the back area there. It just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And slide that application. So, not a lot more detail to provide other than that. We've confirmed, and you see a table in our report that it does meet all the other zoning requirements of the C1 zone, setbacks, block coverage. Those standards are all very flexible in the downtown. We recognize most of the buildings are right up against the property lines. Generally cover most of the site area. We've done a fairly thorough review of the application under the applicable planning policies, as well as the official planning statement, the county official plan, and the local official plan. First, the local official plan being the most applicable here. It does support and permit a range of commercial uses in the downtown. It doesn't typically identify veterinary clinics, but it isn't intended to be as specific as the zoning bylaw. And naturally, the official plan is trying to promote well-used, not vacant buildings in the downtown and a vibrant commercial core. So, since this unit has become vacant, we feel that this zoning will help keep that unit used by an active tenant. The applicant hasn't identified any major changes to the exterior of the building. If there are renovations of any substance, they would require a building permit. We get more detail around that. You're probably wondering if the color is going to be just the same.
No, because I know.
Details would be.
You're reading my mind.
Please change the inside.
And I think that wraps up the bulk of my report. As I mentioned, it was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. It was given as Jennifer summarized. There were no public objections. We didn't receive the standard typical agency responses, but no technical issues or concerns identified. Of course, we're here to receive any comments or questions from council as well as the public, and we'll pause there to open it up for that.
Okay. Excellent, thank you, Steve. But before I open up for questions, I just want to give the applicant an opportunity, no pressure. You don't have to add anything, but if you wanted to, that's fine, or Ms. Buffett, if you want to add anything.
Oh, I think very helpful, not question.
I'm happy that council is considering it and there is no objection to that. I would say thank you, everybody, for the hard work. That's good.
All right, questions from council?
Not really, I mean, I just hope that they'll tidy up the back so that the parking spaces are more defined,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Maybe even some paving or at least recycled asphalt or something, or get rid of the grass so you can actually see that there's spots. I assume again that it's mainly gonna be for probably the employees, so most of the customers or clients will be using on-street parking. I guess with regards to zoning for that clinic, I know we don't have boarding allowed in our, like a daycare type boarding situation, but I guess that would just be looped in because of that clinic is part of that, right? So we would be allowing them to board animals as well. Yeah.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a kennel.
No, yeah, It's
just in outdoor patients coming in and going to that.
Yeah.
Sometime
yes,
if the patient is really sick, has to be on the trip or anything, then normally they keep them.
Right.
But there are cages and everything, so there won't be any disturbance to the neighbors.
yeah, okay, good,
And the other thing, as far as parking is concerned, because it's all by appointment. So the trend is they don't book more than 2 pints at a time. So parking, I don't think is gonna be an issue.
Okay.
There are enough parking on the front, on the main street and behind the RBC building.
Yeah.
Which is public parking.
Yeah.
So I think everything is being taken care of.
okay. Yeah, I just wanna make sure, like I said, that those spots are defined so that, and maybe even signage or whatnot that says like this is parking for the vet clinic only, because some of the tenants that might be around in those buildings may have just sort of taken those spots thinking like, oh, whatever, nobody uses them, right?
Yeah.
So you just might wanna think about that as well, as making sure that there's,
So
they're definitely,
That will be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Because there is grass there right now, probably 1.5 feet tall, so it will be cleaned up and most likely it's gonna be at least 3 parking. We will see to it if we can add more, we will be happy to do it, but if not, then 3 parking should be there.
perfect,
Very easy.
good, Excellent, all right, thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, all right.
Oh, I was gonna add that zoning does specifically limit any overnight to just recovery areas if there's a surgery or something like that, but it specifically excludes, any like kennel or boarding animals beyond recovery from surgery. So if there was some concern with that, that would be.
Yeah, well, it's just when I used to work at Headwaters, which was directly across the street, we used to board, right? So I just wasn't sure if that was still something that sometimes on other side, either side of the street, there's just different rules, right? With BC one and residential and all that stuff, so. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if the business needed to have that as part of their business, that it would be allowed within the use of, being a veterinary clinic.
Correct.
Councilor Sherry?
Yeah, I was just gonna say historically, there was a vet clinic across the road.
Yep.
Where the
That one.
place was, yeah. Even before that, it was Doc Redmond's, but
Yep, it was,
many, many moons ago.
many years.
Concern that I would have would be about storage of biological waste and.
Yeah,
I pick up,
I can answer.
yeah,
I've been dealing with these kind of things for the last 10 years. We just opened up one hospital in Owen Sound, Jordan Goa, like 3 months ago. So the way the process works, College of Veterinary of Ontario, they have standards. And that all biological waste has a system in place to be cleaned. Like even any pet is being euthanized.
Yeah.
There is a gateway to come and take the body and everything is being works out the way it is working for human beings, like the minerals and all. Okay. So there won't be anything black out any.
Good, thanks. Councilor Sample?
Just going back to the parking again and winter months. We have, I don't think behind that building, there's a lot of snow area to leave the snow. So what are we gonna do with it? They start pushing it out to roadways and blocking things in, how we,
We factor that into like how many spaces could be accommodated. You
you left some room for snow.
Probably more than 3 cars if you didn't leave room for any snow, but there is room for 3, and then there's actually width on the other side of that, and then between the spaces.
Okay.
Anybody else on council? Okay. Any public comments or questions on this application? Anybody around the corner?
There is, but they're shaking their heads, no.
We're all good, okay. Okay. Well, in that case, so the recommendation as contained in Steve's report is to approve the bylaw amendment to allow veterinary clinic within that zone. Somebody want to make a motion to that effect by Councilor Sample, second by Councilor Sherry. Right, all in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, John.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right, so as I mentioned, we're going to move to closed session agenda item up to this point in the agenda, so would ask for a motion that according to section, actually, yeah, we can. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do public question period first, and then we'll move into closed session. So public question period. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. Safe drive home. If you do have a question, just ask that you state your name and address for the record, and then go ahead. Yeah.
My name is Neil Evans. I live over at 847 Cook Crescent. So you probably guess what this is already. I do understand that the bylaws that are in place and everything. And I do understand that maybe purchasing that house and I have one parking spot. But for years, we were able to park at the bottom of our boulevard, and I do understand that there is a little bit of overhang onto the back end of the road. But the way they clear the snow, we gained about 2 feet on our roadway, and we never impeded the snow plows from coming by. I know that it's been talked about that, and we have got tickets for having that, and it started, I believe, on Friday or Saturday. We started tickets. I just wanna know if a concession can be made for some of the winter months, just until the plan's put in place where we can figure out what to do, where we can have that bit of overhang on the back end that shouldn't impede with snow removal, just so, because I have 2 cars, both me and my wife work, we don't have.
So you're parking between the sidewalk and the curb?
Yeah, I've never been on the sidewalk, cause I have pictures if you really do wanna see where it is.
No, I can create the visual, yeah.
Like, we don't park, I know that I block the sidewalk, that's the biggest thing, I want that plow to be able to go through. It's just that, 6 to 12 inches at the back that is already has snow out. We lose about a foot, or gain about a foot at the end of the drive.
So I think it's like not out onto the road, it's just over the boulevard, the grassy part.
No, I,
No, this would be,
Yeah.
just on the road, just waiting, because we live in the townhome, so we have shared driveway.
Yeah.
So me and my neighbor, we both have the 2 cars in the driveway and then the 2 at the bottom.
yeah. Yeah, so the back part of the car is sticking out past the curb.
So I can get both my tires onto the driveway, onto that little bit of the driveway.
Yes.
The rear end of the car, I drive it, we probably have an extra 12 inches. That just barely spikes over that concrete curb that goes down.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as you know, we put parking up in that area is the perennial. Yeah. Okay. Is that something maybe ask staff to take a look at and just see? Like, or now, Jim, like, I just don't want to put you on the spot if you haven't had a chance to take a look at
Your
it.
worship, we did have an incident over the holidays where a vehicle was hit that was overhanging out onto the street, so I would love to see them as far off as we can get. Cause it just pulls us in on insurance and people.
Is there any chance, Neil, like to park parallel to the street? Like, I know
So we have
some places
that.
people do that.
So we came up with a solution just so we wouldn't get ticketed over the last few days, but it involves cars, like almost 3 cars in the one driveway and then the one across the bottom. It is and with the amount of snow, we get so much more snow there, obviously. Piles get pretty high and that driveway thins out pretty quick.
Any thoughts, Jennifer?
Yeah, through your worship, back in 2022, the mayor and council Wagner had been contacted by residents. So the boulevard area is for stone storage. We have looked at providing a bulk out parking area across the road, however, that would be paid by local charges by the residents that benefit that. So they, in addition, there was also, an issue with the services that are already there. There's lights, electrical boxes, tree. And so, staff of the day did not recommend any of the suggestions, or options that were provided to council.
When did you move there, Neil?
2018.
Okay. Yeah, so a few years ago, I guess it was now, we looked at a cross, like on the sort of north side of Cook Crossing, see if there was a way to put in some additional parking over there, and then because of the services and everything else that are located there, was not going to be split.
Attached to the report, there was a map that indicated that parking in our municipal lots is.
Yeah.
Well, not ideal.
Do you use your garage at all for parking?
No, I wouldn't be able, I can't fit my cars in the garage. That's
Yeah, there's no way you're gonna, those are actually.
No, they're storage garages, they're definitely not anything more than
Car
cars.
garages. So you've got to join driveways
Yes.
Yeah.
with your neighbor next.
Jennifer, would you be able?
I have thought about it, and I think I could probably.
And the chiefs, yeah, I know.
Sorry, just one sec, sorry, Jennifer, just clear.
So we started in October, November for winter parking, how proper parking take place.
Yeah.
An educational campaign. Once we found out the incident with our snowplow taking place, we had to fortunately. So what we did, we've gone out, we've put in private door knockers, we put these on vehicles, we have started. There is kind of not really much gray area now that we're having that.
No, absolutely. I was just going to say, is there a way of, I know we're not supposed to be parking lawns, but is there a way to cheat 3 cars across?
We can, it's just a matter of
If you had like 2 of them, you know, like,
finding a place for the snow and moving it basically down to that over at the end.
gotcha.
And I know that people have parked on their lawns over the months just to.
I mean, you wouldn't have to park a whole vehicle on the lawn, but just, you know, like if you had 1,
Type, but
2 tires on either, yeah, like a,
Yeah.
3 abreast.
It might be able to work that way if we're able to widen it a bit. See what happens. And because of the way it works with their driveways, if I'm at the bottom, they have to get out in the morning. Kind of muddies that up a little bit.
Yeah, but I know in a lot of cases, what I think they call it stacking, like what will have to be stacked.
Yeah.
It's less ideal, but in tight circumstances, people are the only option. Yeah, I mean, the only other practical thing I can think of, like, is there anybody else in the street that doesn't use their full driveway?
No,
It's pretty good.
That's pretty
As
busy.
soon as one driveway becomes available, so let's set it up.
Just to. So if your boulevard was cleaned in front of your place and you backed up onto the boulevard, like, does that leave enough room for your?
I used to do that when we first moved in the winter. I would clean, so I have a lamp post right on my, like in between me and my running neighbor that we share lawns, not driveways.
Yeah.
And what I would do is I'd clean the snow right up to the that, and I'd be able to pull it. I usually had my of my car on that, and it left them enough room to be able.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is that there just is no easy solution there.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, if it weren't for an actual incident where the car was hit, we'd probably be more inclined to say, don't really let it hang over a bit. But to Jim's point, once it happens, once it becomes a huge liability issue for the whole town. And it's difficult to then allow it on a case by case basis to say, well, you know, you're only hanging out 3 inches, so that's okay. The next guy at 3.5, we have to draw the line. So, yeah, I guess, yeah, my advice, try to find some way to make it work.
Yeah.
Inside, unfortunately.
You know, which months can we park on the boulevard? Have our back tires on the boulevard, or is that?
Through your worship, the traffic bylaws not permit the lower at any time.
that's something we give relief to somehow. Just during winter,
Yeah,
that would be the
you can look
only.
at that, it's probably a safer option than
It is.
having to hang over the sidewalk or the street.
Can't hang over the sidewalk because you block the plow, or block the sidewalk plow, or the blower.
Okay.
Yeah, this have done contact. Yeah, whatever standards. Yeah, standard. That's certain. We'll explore. Based on your exact scenario. And if you're okay, we're gonna use your exact scenario and your evidence to demonstrate what the impact is in terms of our liability if we happen to hit you. Which is
Yeah.
unfortunate, we don't wanna do that.
Yes.
And what layouts are potentially possible. And then if there's time, then we'll go back to you.
Yep.
And we can review what to avoid you incurring.
Okay, that sounds good.
I mean, that seems to be the only thing
That's-
potentially.
That's all I can come up with.
That's all I can come up with too.
It's still not.
But it's the only, I mean.
Especially in that area, because the 2 driveways, there's not enough. Can't park a car lengthwise at the bottom without allowing your neighbor to get in. In my subdivision, you can,
Yeah.
you can get out, but up there you can't.
And I know you said your garage doesn't allow a car to be parked.
Well, you could fit a sedan in there, but I don't.
So and then don't, not facetious at all, and I know it's not a heat problem, it's not really the best heat strategy. But could you get
the front end of the vehicle in an open door garage or partially open garage door?
You could, it would, depending on what you have in that garage, though.
Right, because then, but if you're,
Our houses are smaller, so a lot of that garage.
so I'm just saying, if there was capacity to do that, without, you know, creating liability for yourself, have you, that would be looked at as well?
And for me, I probably wouldn't be able to, just because I have a door in my garage.
In your house, yeah, right, so, okay, next that, okay, that makes.
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for bringing it up and leave it with us and we'll. See what we can do, yeah. Do some geometry exercises, I guess, and see if we can find something that will make it fit.
And
Okay,
that's why we were a little more diligent with new subdivision that wants to go in on 89 West
Yes.
to be bigger driveways and bigger garages.
Yes,
We were not here when your subdivision was planned.
neither was I.
yeah, okay, yeah, our next meeting or is that?
Well, we'll probably, what are we to do, have staff correspond directly with them and review what the options are, and that out, and if necessary, the facts of larger numbers of the street, we have to report, but if we can resolve this working with you, then we'll certainly staff and follow up.
No, I agree.
Perfect.
Where, you want tickets for that specific address in the interim while we're looking at it? Or-
Well.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you, Neil. Anybody else? Question period. Help me out for somebody around the corner.
I'm in that.
Okay.
Let them know there is 2 chairs in here now.
Yes, there's a couple chairs.
That's it then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so at this point then, we will move into closed session. So I need a motion pursuant to section 239 sub 2 sub F of the Municipal Act, allowing council to enter into closed session for the purpose of receiving advice that may be subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. So then mover and seconder, Councillor Sample, second by Councillor Wagner. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, so we are gonna have to kick everybody out for a period of time. But feel free if you want to stick around.
Just stick around, we'll go back in, again.